This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions.
This is Joe Rabil. Going to give you a stock market update, and we're going to go through the market conditions, see what shifts have taken place, and then also we want to look at the key levels. We're up against a really key level on the upside, and then if this area is to fail, we want to talk about what potentially could develop on the downside, and basically what we should be expecting. But we need to frame out the key levels and go from there. All right, let's go ahead and get going with that. If you want to learn more about these techniques, I would suggest starting with my book. It's at rabilstockresearch.com/book. Also, if you enjoy this content, please hit the like button and also subscribe. Okay, let's start with the sentiment here. We've got negative 9%, more bears than bulls. So I'm still classifying this as positive at this stage. The overbought, oversold oscillator, I think what's interesting here is it's moved up above the oversold level. So this RSI 5 on the weekly. I've moved it to neutral. Now, the reality is that we're still pretty oversold, but we've already rallied up off the low to meet the 50% mark. I'm going to go into that in a second. So to me, that's a pretty good rally. We're back up to the 18-month line. That's the green line here. So I'm kind of feeling like I'm just moving this back to neutral. It doesn't mean that it can't rally further. In fact, what I'm watching for is for this gray line to move up to the 50 level and see if the RSI 20, the red line, does not get above 50. So if we get that, that would be an RSI setup to the downside if prices end up forming a pivot high. So something we definitely want to be on the watch for because of the way this is played out and the fact that we're potentially turning the trend to the downside. That will be a very important signal. Now, if we get a rally that's good enough that gets the red DI, the RSI 20 to come back above, then I'd feel like we're probably not going to break down through this. So this is going to be very important to watch in the next few weeks. All right. So let's just go through the rest of the volatility. Both are still negative. We'll go into that when I put this down. And then the trend, we've got the monthly trend still positive. The weekly trend is just about, the 18 is about to cross the 40. And that's kind of like the barometer for me to move this to negative. So it's really close. The daily chart has been negative, continues to kind of be the controlling trend right now. From a momentum standpoint, I put the monthly at neutral. Weekly and daily are both negative. All right, so I still have the fib grid up. I do want to just touch on the volatility growing, continuing to be at very high levels, making it, a lot more treacherous on trading. You got to be very careful in this environment. It's not so. I'm not telling you not to trade, but we want to take advantage of when we're oversold or overbought. And be a little bit more aggressive with our entries and exits. I've actually been recommending to subscribers maybe look to do option trades where you can control the risk a little bit better than doing individual stock trades if you're going to trade. All right. There's nothing wrong with standing aside right now until we let the dust settle a little bit. Still a lot of volatility, a lot of uncertainty. So we talked about this. We made a move off of this low to this peak and retraced 50%. And then we got a really strong rally off that level. Now that rally, we worked our way up to this 50%. So we take from this peak down to this low, and the retracement of that was right at this level, right? I mean, we basically came down to that. Now, I do want to add one more. So we'll go down to that hourly chart. And you can see that now we take the low to high, and the 50% off that is right around 513. I think this is pretty close. Actually, that is off a little bit. Let me fix this. I thought that was wrong. That peak up there, it's around 514. So if we come back down through 514, to me, that's a sign of weakness, especially if we take out this low. Now, I did want to spend a minute on this just because if you think about what's taking place here, we've made a a higher low and then a higher high, and then we made another higher low, but we didn't complete the reversal by making a higher high here. All right. Now, because of that, if we come back down through this low, then it's a failed bull. We had a bullish pattern potentially setting up, and this would be a bull failure. All right, so that would put a lot more pressure, especially re-breaking the 50% mark. So something we definitely need to be on the watch for here. A lot of critical things to watch for in the near term. I mentioned the RSI set up on the weekly. We've already had, let me go back to the daily chart. We've already had several, 2 or 3 RSI sell signals on the daily chart. So we've got this situation where, yeah, we're getting rallies and pretty good rallies, but they're not strong enough to get the RSI, at least the RSI 20, to turn things around. High volatility. So that's the type of environment where we expect more downside risk. But we're going to have to just stay on our toes right now. All right, I want to switch over to the 4 time frames. And, there's a couple things that I think are relevant here. First of all, it's the 18th of April. All right. I know this has a big tail right now, but we don't really have a completed bar. So there's a couple things related to that. Number one, I mean, this could actually close higher. This could come all the way back up here, and then this will not be a crossover potentially. I'm not sure. I haven't done the calculation, but the reality is that right now it's at a crossover level. If we get a strong enough rally, it's possible that this will not be completed. All right. What is interesting about the DI lines in the ADX is that it doesn't really matter where this closes. All right. That's why I like to use both of these together. So this is based on the close and this is based on the high-low range. This high-low range is probably not going to change for the month. I mean, if we got some kind of a crazy rally, maybe we get a little bit of improvement. But the reality is that these aren't going to change. We already know that we've got a red crossing over green, and that this line has dropped down for the first time in quite some time off of the high level. So I think there's a pretty good chance this consolidation phase continues. I mean, it could weaken, but so I'm sort of looking at it like this. Like, we could have a sideways pattern, all right? We could channel sideways, or we could be weak. I think the least likely probability is that we're going up and that we're going to break out again. All right. So I'm kind of looking at, like, normally you have 3 choices: uptrend, downtrend, and sideways. I think we're down to sideways and down, I think, are our 2 choices. At least for now. I think it's going to take more time to get this to turn the corner. I know this still has a rising line, but just based on what the momentum signs are doing, again, unless there's a massive, massive recovery, we're going to have both the MACD and the DI line suggesting that there's going to be more consolidation coming. All right. So let's see how this finishes off the month. It's also very possible that this could be a much bigger red bar by the time, might not have as big a tail by the time the month is over. Because if you look at the weekly, we've had this move down, really strong 1 week, and then we've had no follow through. Now, I mean, this is an inside week, so it could go either way. We could have a little downside and then try and push to the upside. But just based on the strength of the DI lines and the ADX now crossing well above 25, and the fact that the signal line looks like it's about to cross to the downside, and most likely when we start a new week, we're going to get this crossing to the downside. It's just, again, we've got this problems overhead. So it's going to be difficult. It doesn't mean we can't push a little bit higher, maybe come a little bit closer to these moving averages, but I would say next week, I think we're going to get the crossover. All right. So we've got a lot of things turning more negative rather than, getting ready for a recovery or something like that. It was a great rally off the low. There was big volume. And we came down to this prior level, but it just seems like there's a little bit unfinished business to me, down here. Like it might need to come back and test a little bit more. But we'll just have to see. I'm not going to fight it if this comes down and holds and turns back up. Now let me just go back and make sure we're on the same page, because I want to look at this. So we can, even though this could come down and hold here and turn right back above and break out. All right. But we know that when it's not a clean signal, where it didn't go straight up the first time, it's a little bit more of a distorted reversal to the upside. It's not quite often, not quite as strong. All right. So just keep that in mind. I mean, we can continue to the upside. It could still be a continuation signal and a completed bull signal. And it's not like it's breaking this prior low and then breaking out. It's still making higher lows and then kicking to a new high. But typically the strongest signals happen right away. They don't have extra swings involved. All right. I did want to touch on that for a second. So we want to keep an eye on that. If we come back up through the 50% retracement level of the decline, I think that's a positive. But you can see what's going on with the daily chart. I mean, there's pretty strong momentum. We have strong momentum to the downside here. We've got pretty strong momentum to the downside here. We did get a MACD to cross over here, but it's not. There's very little air between these two. There's not a lot of strength in that move. And we did make a new low with price in the last leg to the downside. So I don't see any divergence in place yet. I think, if we come back down and make a new low, I think we'll be getting RSI divergences, and quite possibly we could see MACD and probably DI diverge if we can come back down again. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's what I'm on the lookout for, because we didn't get it on the last move. All right, so continue to stay on top of this. Key levels to watch, obviously, are that 514 level on the hourly. If we re-break the retracement level from the move up, right? And then we also want to continue to keep an eye on this, basically like the 550 area. If we come back up through that, I think that would signal that we probably going to push a little bit higher into these weekly moving averages. All right, everybody have a nice long weekend. We'll see you next time.